And now for breaking news exclusive from In the Dugout, here's Mike Stenhouse.
Thank you, Larry, the Liberty Guy. It's with somewhat sadness that we hear the report on a story. It happened just this morning in Bristol, Rhode Island. In just a few moments, you're going to see a video that is, to me, shocking. All over the state, parent groups have popped up defending their parental rights when it comes to their children's education, whether it has to do with the teaching of radical and divisive critical race and other gender equity theories, whether it comes to vaccine mandates, or in this case, mask mandates. We have talked on this show, we've talked to representatives, we've talked to legal experts, how the governor's unconstitutional redeclaration of a state of emergency in late August is likely unconstitutional and will likely be legally challenged. Emanating from that illegal declaration of a state of emergency was what many parents believe was an illegal mask mandate, certainly an oppressive mask mandate. Many parents complained, but only few walk the talk. Watch this video, and then we're going to talk to the parent who is doing what I think thousands of other parents across this state wish they had the courage to do.
Let me do the talking, okay? Mr. Hicks, how you doing? Good. Just here so my kids can get an education.
Okay, they have masks?
No, they don't.
Okay, we will be requiring masks. So
okay.
You're welcome in school, but you will be required.
So you are confining them their education, even though you denied their exemption unlawfully. Confirming that?
I am confirming that we require masks in school.
Okay. So you are denying them their
education. Require masks in school per the
okay.
governor's order.
The governor's order is not law. Okay. Rhode Island law says that there is a legal exemption. I submitted that exemption to you. I'm here under the direction of my attorney to get you to admit that you're denying my kids their education. I'm observing you deny them their education. You did so in a denial email. And so apparently we'll have to proceed from here. I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be here the next day.
Okay.
And I'll be here the day after that for my children to get their education.
Your children are welcome to get their education?
No, they're not welcome, because I already gave you an exemption that says that my family has a deeply held moral belief that does not allow me to mask my children. You are denying them their education. Now, had you attempted to make an accommodation, that would be, you might say, we can't have them in the building, but here's the accommodation we could provide. That would be in accordance with Rhode Island law. You chose to deny that that exemption even exists, okay? And that is the issue I have. You made no attempt to accommodate. So they're entitled to this education according to state law and the Rhode Island Constitution. And you're denying it to them based on the mandate of a dictator. And that's not how America works. How can you teach civics in this school if you don't even know how this goes?
We are a nation of laws.
Yeah, we are, exactly. You just said it. It is not lawful.
Well,
the General Assembly, it's not an opinion. The General Assembly voted to remove that authority from him. Then he turned around and said, I'm going to pretend this is a different emergency and give myself authority. That's not how America works. This police officer knows that. He took an oath to the Constitution. He knows he doesn't serve dictators.
I communicated to you where your right of appeal is.
It's the best. Dude, I hear you. But I have to do this. These are my kids, man.
I get it. But
you know, they're being denied the education.
My beliefs, your beliefs, we might be very similar, but right now, it's not. This isn't
okay.
the time.
I'm not here to cause a disruption.
I
hear you. That's why I came right now, because I didn't want to cause a scene.
I appreciate
where that appeal right lies.
I am not interested in your kangaroo court. I am going through my attorneys, and we will use the legal process. I don't care what Wright has to say.
That's the best.
And that's what this is for.
That's the best.
That's what this is for.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you are following an unlawful process.
Enjoy your birthday. Okay.
Joining me now is the voice you heard on that video, the father of two high school students who were denied entry into their high school today because of the governor's mask mandate and their religious and moral objection to it. John Fennessy, you are a brave father. Thank you for joining us on In the Dugout.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I see you're right in the mood. You've got your dugout cap on. You're a Boston Bruins fan, I presume?
Yes, I am.
All right, go Bruins. We love them. Big Bobby Orr fan back when I was a young guy, back before you were even a thought, John. Anyway.
My father used to read me his biography as a bedtime story.
And I've had the pleasure of meeting Bobby Orr. He is one of the nicest gentlemen I have ever met in my entire life. So know that. Okay, John, what a morning you had. You've sort of been preparing for this. Before I want to take our viewers and you back through the video again and have you sort of give some color commentary. We'll stop and talk, stop, go and talk and all that. But first, why did your family decide that this mask mandate, potentially unconstitutional mask mandate, was not right for your family?
Well, it was twofold. First of all, being intimately aware of the risks of masking my children for 7+ hours a day. That was never an option. Couple that with the fact that this is a completely illegal mandate from the governor. I knew that, this was an opportunity to teach my kids to stand up for what they believe in and what is right. And it was never an option to put their health at risk by masking them all day. And so it was a very, very easy decision for me to make.
All right. We don't want to relitigate the dangers of masking. We've talked about that a lot with Dr. Boston on the show. We want to keep this focused on you, what you've done and what the school can. And by the way, you are a resident of Warren.
That's correct.
Your two children were scheduled to attend Mount Hope High School in Bristol, which is part of the Bristol Warren school system, correct?
That is correct.
And we'll just keep it at your two children to maintain their privacy. But just to confirm, in the end, both your children were denied entry into the school today, and they are at home right now when they should be at school receiving an education. They're, as you've said, constitutionally required education, correct?
That is correct.
All right, let's go through the video and have you comment, and we'll stop here and there. Just give me a moment to share the screen. And let's play and go full screen.
Let me do the talking, okay?
So the first thing I think we'll notice is that as you approach the entrance to the school, it looks like you're met by a welcoming committee that was specifically there to confront you.
Yeah, it appeared that way to me. The gentleman you'll see in the red Mr. shirt. Hicks, how you doing? Good.
Mr. Hicks. Now, first of all, who's Mr. Hicks?
Mr. Hicks is the superintendent. So if he's standing at the door of a specific school on the first day, he knew through email exchanges that I would be there to assert my right to have my children educated at that school.
All right,
And
so you did have communication via email with Mr. Hicks, the superintendent of the Bristol Warren School District, right? Ahead of time, and all right, we'll get into that in a second. So he knew, he had an inkling this could happen, and he was there to greet you.
Yes.
Okay, let's go on.
Just here so my kids can get an education.
Okay, they have masks.
No, they don't.
Okay, we will be requiring masks. So
Okay.
You're welcome in school, but you will be required.
So
to
you
wear
are
a mask.
confirming that you're denying them their education, even though you denied their exemption unlawfully. You're confirming.
All right, so much in this 3 minutes to talk about. First of all, do we know who this woman is standing by the door?
I suspect that that's the principal, but it's hard to tell with her mask on. She looks like several other people in the building.
It's hard to tell what anyone's going on with those masks on.
The entire time, so I didn't know who that
Okay.
was.
All right, you just said there, I lost my train. Oh, you just mentioned you have filed, John, we've lost your video temporarily, but you have filed for a religious exemption with the Bristol Warren School District?
That is correct.
Is it an online form? How did you do it?
No, so there's forms specifically for vaccinations because that's the most common use of the exemption. I just wrote the exemption myself to make them aware that I was invoking this right.
And did they respond and specifically deny your request?
They did one better. They actually responded and denied the existence of a religious exemption.
Did they do that in an email or via email?
Yes, they did that in an email.
Perhaps we'll take a look at that email later. All right, let's go on. So you've applied for an exemption, well, or you informed them you were taking an exemption in your words, and they flat out said to it. Okay, let's go on.
Confirming that?
I am confirming that we require masks in school.
Okay. So you are denying them their education.
We require masks in school for the
Okay.
governor's order.
The governor's order is not law. Okay. Rhode Island law says that there is a legal exemption. I submitted that exemption to you. I'm here under the direction of my attorney to get you to admit that you're denying my kids their education. I'm observing you deny them their education. You did so in a denial email. And so apparently we'll have to proceed from here. I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be here.
All right. So you mentioned the government requires an education for students, and that's being denied. And you also mentioned that a governor's mandate is not law. Now, I'm sure you've been advised by some lawyers on this, and you're a smart guy yourself. Talk about that.
Well, specifically in this situation, more so than previously in the pandemic, the legislature had voted to remove this authority from the governor. The governor then
It was part of the budget that was signed into law in early July. Exactly.
Exactly. And the legislature makes laws, not governors. And I believe that his new state of emergency is illegitimate. And because it's illegitimate, it is not law. And I don't recognize it as law.
And any executive order like the school mask mandate coming from that potentially unconstitutional declared state of emergency would therefore also be invalid.
Correct.
Okay, let's go on. Well, we ended there where you say you're going to be coming back. So you're going to bring your children back to school and do this again tomorrow?
As long as they're willing. None of this has happened without their complete participation. If they're not comfortable with it, we will not be back there tomorrow.
Your children.
That is correct.
We'll get to them in just a minute, but let's complete the video.
Here the next day,
Okay.
and I'll be here the day after that for my children to get their education.
Your children are welcome to get their education.
No, they're not
We
welcome,
require masks.
because I already gave you an exemption that says that my family has a deeply held moral belief that does not allow me to mask my children, and you are denying them their education. Now, had you attempted to make an accommodation, that would be, you might say, we can't have them in the building, but here's the accommodation we could provide. That would be in accordance with Rhode Island law.
So there's an interesting point you make right there, John. So would that mean you and your children would be acceptable if they brought you into the building and brought them into the building, I should say, and maybe put them in a separate room or a fully distanced area? So you're saying you would accept some accommodation, even, without masks, even if that meant them being apart from their fellow students?
I would consider a reasonable accommodation had they even made that available to me.
But there was no attempt. They were just we're going to be compliant, and we're going to interpret this to the strictest we can. Now we're starting to see on the left, and we'll let the video play, but it looks like your welcoming committee even includes some security or police people, but hold on one second. You chose to deny that exemption even exists, okay? And that is the issue I have. You made no attempt to accommodate. So they're entitled to this education according to state law and the Rhode Island Constitution, and you're denying it to them based on the mandate of a dictator. A dictator? A tyrant? Did you mean dictator? Oh, I meant dictator.
That's exactly what he is.
Well, we are disappointed that Governor McKee has seems to have taken Governor Raimondo's tyranny, and I might even agree and multiplied it a little bit. All right, let's go on.
And that's not how America works. How can you teach civics in this school if you don't even know how this goes?
Do they teach civics in the school?
If you do, it can't be accurate.
Okay, I got it.
We're a nation of laws. And
Yeah,
we
we are
know what
exactly.
is law.
You just said it. It is not lawful.
Well,
The General
differ on
the
that.
General Assembly. It's not an opinion. The General Assembly voted to remove that authority from him. Then he turned around and said, "I'm going to pretend this is a different emergency and give myself authority." That's not how America works. This police officer knows that. He took an oath to the Constitution.
All right. So is that a police officer there?
Yes, that is.
That's not some what do they call them? Resource person on school. What do they call those people?
He may be a resource officer, but he works for the Bristol Police.
And was he in Bristol Police uniform? Is that the official uniform of Bristol Police, or was there off duty as a resource officer? Do you know?
He was wearing Bristol Police clothing. I'm not sure if he was on duty or what the status
All right.
was.
So your welcoming committee included the superintendent and law enforcement.
That is correct.
Let's go on.
Constitution. He knows he doesn't serve dictators.
I
I
communicated
also
to
know
you
this isn't the
where
time-
your
this isn't
right
the
of
time to
appeal
play
It's
is.
the best. Dude, I hear you,
appeal
but
right
I
under
have to
law.
do. These are my kids, man.
I get it, but
You know,
just now
they're
it's
being
not-
denied
listen,
the
My
education.
beliefs, your beliefs.
Well, it looks like the police officer was not trying to aggravate the situation. It almost sounded like he felt uncomfortable being there, but he had his marching orders. What was your take of that situation?
Well, if you listen to the last thing he just said, your beliefs and my beliefs may be similar.
Oh,
Now, without saying,
let's go back. Let's go back and hear that again.
You know,
Just now
they're
it's
being
not-
denied
listen,
the
My
education.
beliefs, your beliefs, we might be very similar, but right now.
Yes, he
just-
did. Wow. Okay. Got it. But he's got a job to do. And I think you can appreciate that to some level, right?
Within reason, yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's finish up.
Just, it's not. This isn't. the
Okay,
time-
I'm not here
we're
to
trying
cause a
be
disruption.
we're trying to be
I hear you.
educated.
That's why I came right now, because I didn't want to
I
cause a scene.
I
Like-
appreciate
where
that.
that appeal right lies. and how you may
I am
discover-
not interested in your kangaroo court. I am going through my attorneys, and we will use the legal process. I don't care what Wright has to
That's the
say.
best. That's the best.
And that's what this is for.
That's the best
And I will
situation.
That's what
follow
this
the
is
legal
for.
process.
Okay.
Yes?
Thank
And you are following an
guys.
unlawful process.
Enjoy your birthday. Okay.
Let me do the talk.
Wow. Okay, John. So, you did it. You'd been thinking about it for some time, obviously. Before we ask how your daughter has reacted to the experience, which must have been traumatic, how are you feeling? Any second thoughts on what happened today?
No second thoughts at all. All they've done is confirm for me exactly what I thought, which is, all the governor has to do is stand behind a podium and make demands now, and everyone down the line is going to go along with it. Even to the point where they'll say, we are a nation of laws, thinking that they're upholding laws.
Right. And as you clearly mentioned, and as we've been talking about in this show, properly enacted laws through the democratic process are one thing. Potentially unconstitutional dictatorial type mandates are quite another.
That's correct.
Your children, I'm sure they are upset. We want to respect their privacy, but is there anything you like to say about how they're doing?
They are upset. They're upset that they don't get to have the normal high school experience. They also understand that the normal high school experience no longer exists in the state of Rhode Island. And so they realize it's not an option. They know they can't go to school all day and wear a mask, that it's not safe. And they know that what the governor is doing, and in turn what the schools are doing, is wrong. So while they're upset that they can't have the high school experience most kids look forward to as they progress towards high school, they understand what's happening here. And I think they're going to learn a more valuable lesson in this than whatever mask obedience protocol they have in place in school right now, because I'm sure all they're learning about today is how to stay in your bubble, wear your mask, and don't talk to people. There's no value in that. So they're not missing much today, but they're
How
going
to
to
be,
miss a lot.
how to be subservient, in other words.
Exactly.
And do you think they, I mean, listen, you are a well-spoken, intelligent man. I'm sure your wife is as well as a woman. Do you sense that your children understand, they're young high school age? Do they understand these principles and what's at stake here with our liberties?
Yes, they do. I've always, from a young age, tried to appropriately educate them on that fact and make sure that they're strong, independent thinkers that challenge authority when necessary. And so, I didn't ever realize how quickly they would need to use it, but here we are.
How far do you think your family is going to let this go? Listen, critics are going to say it's you, your family, who's denying your children their education. Of course, as you stated, there are those of us who believe that, no, it's the school district who's denying the education. But right now, your children are not in school. They're not receiving an education. First, just quickly, is online learning an option they've offered to you?
No, it is not. They've made no attempt at an accommodation.
So
And I'd
right
say-
now, all of the Bristol Warren School District is in person 100%?
That is my understanding. I know some school committee members tried to discuss an option for online learning that wasn't fully realized. Hopefully something like that's in the works, especially if they're going to begin quarantining children based on tests. What are they going to do? Fall behind 8-10 days because someone tested positive that sits 3 feet away from them in a mask all day?
Yeah. All right, let's go back. So how far are you going to let this go? Your children are not receiving an education. You have other options, private school, homeschool, or just keeping them out of school. What is your thought process on all of that?
So right now, my children are not receiving a public school education. When we returned home after being denied access to the school, they began doing educational things so that on their first day of school, even though they're at home, they are engaged in learning. If the school continues to deny them access, the plan is to homeschool them. And I would argue that the homeschool curriculum I'm going to put in place is far superior to that of the public school.
Wow. And your wife, is she, are you both at home? I know you both work. Are you both at home able to give them that homeschooling education for the near term at least?
My wife's schedule is less flexible than my own, so I will be taking that on primarily. With the curriculum that we're using, it is designed to assist parents who don't have an indefinite amount of time throughout the day to dedicate to being the sole teacher.
Now, the mask mandates, as I understand it, often do not include masks during outdoor periods, only for indoor. I don't know if your children were involved in any sports or other extracurricular activities outdoor. Do you know if they will have access or allowed to participate in anything like that?
So they weren't last year. One of my daughters wants to participate in some sports this year. It's my understanding that if you are a homeschool student in the district, because you're still a taxpayer, you're still entitled to access clubs, sports, school dances, the prom, things like that.
Last question, before we say goodbye for today anyway. Well, last substantive question. In any way, I mean, have you heard from other parents out there who maybe feel the same way, but didn't have the fortitude that your family have? Have you heard from still other parents who might disagree with you and say, how dare you use your children to stand for your own personal values? How would you respond to the pro or con feedback you've gotten from other parents?
So I'll respond to the con first. I never pushed my children into this. It was completely their decision. Now they want to be in school. I had to make the medical decision as a parent not to mask them for 7 hours a day. My wife is a nurse. She knows it's not safe. I know it's not safe. So that wasn't an option. What I did make optional was attempting to go to school the first day unmasked to see if they could go. And they made that choice. So I'm not just holding my kids out there and saying, I'm going to use this to pursue, my own interests. That's not even a thing.
Okay.
And if tomorrow comes and they say, listen, I'm not comfortable with doing this, we won't go.
Support from other parents, yes or no?
There's actually a lot of parents in the East Bay. If you recall, before the governor realized that giving people the choice or giving districts the choice to mandate or not, before he realized that they were going to lose that battle because
Like what Gloucester did, yeah.
Exactly. We outnumbered the pro mask mandate parents at the meeting 10-1.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people in the East Bay that aren't for this. I'm in contact with many of them. They have young children that they obviously cannot expect to send to school unmasked and have them get into it with adults. So they're in a difficult place. 2 meetings ago, we had 20 students leave the district for homeschooling. The last meeting, we had 11. I'm sure there'll be more this meeting. So there are people that are choosing to use other methods in the district of showing their
They're
discontent.
pushing back and resisting in their own way. You chose this way, and you're standing for your principles. Your children are standing for what they believe. It takes courage to do that in today's environment, and we thank you. So last question, from a matter of process, you said you may or may, depending on what your children say, go back tomorrow. Whether you videotape it or not, I don't know, but at least would you be willing to come back on our show on a regular basis and update the viewers as to what's happening both with your children and with your communications with school and state officials?
Yes, I will.
All right, John Fennessy, representing the values of many parents across this state, certainly the emotions and feelings, but maybe totally unique in taking such a public stand and courage in defending those values. So we thank you for standing to your principles, to your whole family. We wish you Godspeed. We hope it's not too upsetting. And we'll look forward to talking with you maybe as soon as tomorrow. Good luck, John.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.